This video will help you to answer Assessment Criteria 1.1 and 1.2 of the 3 PRM assignment. 1.1 is explain at least 2 purposes of performance management and its relationship to business objectives, and 1.2 asks you to identify 3 components of performance management systems. To help you fully answer your question, if you download a free QR code reader onto your phone, then scan this code for a CIPD fact sheet on performance management. For Assessment Criteria 1.1, you're asked to explain at least 2 purposes of performance management and its relationship to business objectives. Here are 2 quotes that provide some purposes. So performance management is the system through which organisations set work goals, determine performance standards, assign and evaluate work, provide performance feedback, determine training and development needs, and distribute rewards. And the other quote from Armstrong and Barron is, performance management is a process that contributes to the effective management of individuals and teams to achieve high levels of organisation performance. So to summarise, the purposes of performance management include the improvement of performance of both individuals and teams, and this will be done by setting individual or team KPIs or objectives that those teams or individuals can work towards. The next point is to determine performance standards, and again this can be achieved by setting those objectives and the KPIs at the standards that the organisation requires. And the final point is managing behaviour. These are all linked with the aim of achieving the business objectives. So the behaviours are likely to be a list of behaviours that the company feel are valuable and will aid the achievement of the business goals. Another way to identify the purposes of performance management is to look at a diagram of the performance management cycle. A typical one is shown here. One of the stages says, what am I here for? So this will be the question people ask when they think, why am I in work? What am I expected to do? So here, some results and expectations will have been discussed and they will be very clear with the individual. The next step is, how am I doing? So the individual will expect to receive honest feedback throughout the year, which will help them to adjust or improve and be able to achieve the objectives that have been set. The next stage they may ask is, does anybody care? So they will be looking for some recognition and maybe reward, which could be financial or non-financial, and maybe an improvement in their career status. The next stage is, how can I do better? And they'll be asking or looking for clear guidance and actions for their current and their future role. And then the cycle continues and moves back into, what am I here for? So they start to look for the results. They know what expectations have been set because they are discussed and clear, and the cycle will continue. Depending on the company's goals, they may take a standards or an excellence orientated approach to performance management. The standards approach is all about complying with set standards and rules. So here they would focus on remedying poor performance, which will be measured at an individual level. The concern here will be with slippage below defined expectations, and there will be a use of disciplinary procedures, incentive-based pay, and the formal appraisal system, and this would fall within transactional leadership. Another method is the excellence-orientated approach, where there is no set benchmark and we're looking for continuous improvement all of the time. This approach focuses on enhancing strong performance and will be measured at organisational level. It will be concerned with the continuous improvement of expectations, and there's a use of coaching techniques, enhancing job satisfaction and raising the levels of motivation and commitment, and this would fall within transformational leadership. Moving on to Assessment Criteria 1.2, you are asked to identify 3 components of the performance management systems. An important component is the objective setting and review. For many organisations, these are set in line with the new financial year, which allows the individual or the team to work towards their objectives for a full 12 months. Once the objectives have been set, learning and development needs can be identified and then activities arranged to enable those teams or individuals to be able to meet their objectives. Coaching and mentoring can be used in a similar way, with coaching having a particular impact on poor performers but can also be used for those who are overperforming. Regular feedback is another important component and should be given throughout the year and not just kept for the appraisal itself. The appraisal or the performance review is usually an annual event and takes place to discuss progress towards objectives and maybe forms the basis of setting the future objectives. During the appraisal, it's common to assess competence, to discuss performance related pay, and can also lead to the rating of individuals, which can then form part of the succession planning for the organisation. In some organisations, the personal development plans are constructed at the same time as the appraisal, but in other organisations, this is done in a separate meeting. For more information on the following assessment criteria, look out for the next videos in this series.